Hi again and welcome to Making Vinyl at Masterdisk. I'm Scott Hall. With me is Garrett Robinson, and we've got a short topic today, deep grooves. I hear people ask, can I get deep grooves? And they're making the distinction, as best I understand, that they don't want shallow grooves. What do you
I want the 180 gram vinyl. I want the deep grooves. I want the loud masters. I want a big car.
Yeah. Deeper doesn't make louder.
Yeah.
I explained in a previous video, and if you sat through, congratulations. But loud more or less represents lateral motion, not deep motion. So what do they mean? Well, they've picked up a record that looks like it doesn't have deep grooves on it, and it doesn't sound loud. So they think that the loud record is caused by deep grooves, but it's actually, the relationship is backwards. It's time, it's duration that is fighting against them. So to make a longer program fit onto the side of a record, you have to make the grooves smaller. The grooves have to nestle closer together. We say this all the time, but I'm wondering if everybody understands why. I mean, if you think about this groove that's wiggling as it's going around the record, and the cutter head is moving across the record while that's happening. So the groove is wiggling and the cutter head is moving. Now, how fast that cutter head moves has to be controlled by the software and is demonstrated on this meter there called LPI. What I mean is louder lateral motion. They're not deeper, but they oscillate further back and forth. Larger lateral excursions are louder. They take up more space so that the record, when it comes back around to that same spot the next time, the cutter head is moved from here to over here to cut the next groove. Otherwise, it will cut over the previous groove. You'll get an overcut, you'll get a skip for sure. The grooves can just barely get away with touching each other. So if you've got a wide groove, it takes up more space on the record. And if you've got a narrow groove, well, you can fit more of them on the side of the record. But whether or not that means it has bass or not is really entirely dependent on how long the side is. Mono bass, as it turns out, is not improved by making the groove deeper. What I've had to do oftentimes when people ask me to make a deeper groove record, I'm kind of like, do I just do it? And or do I explain to them the whole process of why it doesn't need to be, or how it's actually maybe even not a good idea to have an extra deep groove. But I think in general what they're referring to is they don't want a really shallow groove.
That they associate with skipping, or?
Skipping and the lack of bass.
Okay.
So we talked in another episode about DMM. One of the positive things about DMM is you could put more time on a side because the grooves were shallower. And one of the negative things about DMM is that the grooves were shallower in general. So maybe they're talking about deep grooves compared to the way a DMM would have been cut. The bottom line is we cut the depth groove that the music needs. Quiet is so much more important than deep. And we'll demonstrate that in another episode and listen to what the cut surface of the lacquer sounds like before we send it out, and how we adjust the lathe to get it as quiet as possible. So that's deep grooves. That's that for this episode. Making Vinyl at Masterdisk. Thanks. We'll see you next time.